Welcome back to Great Minds Think Alike. I'm Gabby.
And I'm Nick.
Today we want to talk about comparison being the thief of joy, because I'm sure we've all been there where you're scrolling through social media and feeling left behind in life. We want to change that. I know I've been there.
Yeah, so I know it's kind of a cliche that comparison is the thief of joy, but you know, when you break it down, it's so important because we talk about happiness here a lot, and this is a big pillar of it. So this famous saying holds so much weight in every aspect of life. If you truly want to be happy, you have to discover what you want by looking within, not without. You know, inward, not outward. So you need to find out where you belong. You know, a palm tree can't grow in the cold. A polar bear can't, thrive in the warm weather. You know, a fish can't climb a tree and a squirrel can't swim. If you spend your whole life trying to do what someone else does, what you're not made for, you're never going to be happy.
And you can't compare yourself to someone else's different paths. You don't know their journey, you don't know where they've been, and you don't know where they're going. And the vice versa for you too. You need to stay hyper-focused on what truly makes you happy.
Exactly.
Transitioning into our business segment, of course it's easier said than done to not compare yourself, and especially with social media nowadays. But we'll get into that. So really, the people that you're using as comparison and comparing yourself to, use them as inspiration and motivation. It doesn't need to be your journey, what they're doing, but that could potentially be your blueprint.
Yeah, exactly. It can help you decide where you want to go because every career path is different. People start different ages. Some become successful young, old. Some people fail 100 times before they succeed. Some people succeed right away and then fail in the future. If you compare yourself to a friend, you're going to end up in the wrong path and miserable. Especially like with careers like entrepreneurship and real estate, I've seen people transition in their 40s and 50s and be more successful than they ever were, right? And I've also seen people have a great start in their 20s and then crash and burn and end up in stage 1 later on in life. So if you're comparing yourself to any of those people, you don't know when you're going to thrive, when your peak is. You just have to stay true to yourself, figure out what you want, and keep working towards it.
Yeah. You have to run your own race because this is not something that anyone else can do for you. And going back to using these people as inspiration and motivation, reach out to them to maybe get coffee or set up a Zoom call. Like, no is free. That's a saying that we like to say. And who cares if they don't answer you? You tried, and shoot or shoot.
Yeah, and it's so easy with the internet nowadays to find people doing what you want and to reach out to them. You just send them a DM. It's not like the 1990s where you had to watch them on TV and write a letter. You have access to finding people and to reaching out to them. And like you said, coffee and networking really helps. You know?
And learn from these people. You don't have to compare yourself and get down on yourself about it. We'll get into mental health also, but use this as motivation. Use this as something that you can learn from and take things away from.
Yeah, take bits and pieces from it, and when it comes to your career or your business, everyone's situation looks different. Let's say you skip college, but all your friends went. Don't compare yourself to them and feel bad about it. If you didn't go to college, nail yourself down on a business. Start a business. Put your all into it. You can run laps around your college friends if you really apply yourself to your business. It doesn't matter.
And college degrees really don't mean as much as they used to anymore. Everyone has a college degree at this point. And if you don't let yourself get down on yourself about that.
Exactly. And that brings me to the point with white collar versus blue collar jobs. There's some construction and blue-collar jobs that pay way more than the white-collar office jobs. And you may start your career in an office, realize you can't be cooped up all day, then move to construction, right? Or you may start in a more construction job and say, this isn't what I want, and transition to white-collar. And nowadays, there's so many options. People change careers in their 30s, 40s, 50s. If you take a career path because society or someone else tells you it's what you should be doing, you won't be happy. You have to figure out what makes you happy, what makes Nick and Gabby happy, and chase that, whether it's entrepreneurship, office job, blue-collar construction job. Figure out what makes you happy, and you have to do it. Don't look at others.
And I promise if you keep going and stay hyper-focused, tunnel vision on your journey, success is the only outcome. Yep. That's the only way. It doesn't matter when. It doesn't matter how. Using others as motivation is fine, but focus on yourself, set personal goals, and that is the only way that your sustainable growth is going to be achievable.
Yeah, and by setting personal goals, it's fall in love with your process.
Yeah.
Figure out what you want, create the process, and only deal with that. Don't compare your year 1 to someone else's year 10 in business. Like if you want to be a professional photographer, video pro person or anything, and you're just getting started out and you're comparing yourself to the edits of someone who's been doing it for 20 years, you're going to feel so behind and unhappy. But if you compare your edits to what you did last year, you're going to be like, wow, I made so much progress. Let's keep getting better, and then you will be happy.
Yeah, it's you versus you. Remember that. And let's move on to our lifestyle segment.
Yeah, so enough about business. We know careers and everything. It's very important to not compare, but there's so much more in life that we're just so drawn to compare ourselves to because of social media.
Yeah. Social media is awesome at times, and it also sucks at times.
Yeah.
Social media is a highlight reel. It is an illusion of perfection.
Yeah, and a lot of times people only show the good.
Yeah.
They just brag. They post, oh, new job, new car, new this. They're just showing the good things. They're not showing the failures.
They're posting milestones, not their bad times, like you said.
Yeah, and a lot of people are posting things to look good. Like,
yeah.
I'll say some influencers and, musicians and stuff. Half the shit they're posting is either financed or rented. It's just not true. They could be in debt for it. Yeah. And now you feel behind because you see so-and-so from wherever with this car, but it could have been a rental for a day. People post things that aren't theirs. They post things just to look good. And if you're sitting on social media comparing, you're going to falsely have low confidence in yourself.
And it's so true. And that really goes into mental health. And, obviously, again, easier said than done to not compare yourself to one of the Insta baddies. But let's be real. They are using Facetune. They are editing all their fucking pictures. They
don't even look like that in person half the time.
Yeah, even a photo shoot. They have professionals behind the scenes. I don't exactly know how that works, but obviously they're also editing those photo shoots too.
You see these people on Instagram and you think they look so great, and it could be edited, and that brings
it is edited. Yeah. It's not can be. It is edited.
It is. You're right. Thank you. And that brings me to fitness too. Like a big part of lifestyle and a big thing people compare themselves with is their body and their fitness journey.
Yeah.
Compare your body to your body in the past, right?
Yeah.
Not others. You can't compare yourself to these pictures of people online who their job it is to be in shape.
And they're snatching their waist on Facetune. Let's call it for what it is. Their waist is not actually that small.
So it's going to make you feel so bad if you're sitting there, you're someone who has a full-time job, you can only squeeze out an hour a day to work out, and now you're comparing yourself to pictures of someone online whose job it is to spend 8 to 10 hours a day working out and meal prepping and eating right.
But if you see that, you can use that as motivation and get your ass up to go to the gym if you're sitting on the couch. That's the thing that we're also trying to drive home. Yes, comparison is almost inevitable. And again, I'll say it 1,000 more times. It's easier said than done. But if you use what you're feeling so compelled to compare yourself to as motivation and inspiration instead, it is going to catapult you and your personal journey, because that's what we're striving for.
So if you see that person, you can't go, oh, I don't look like it, whatever. You say, wow, that looks like a good thing that I want to try. And then you compare yourself, your body today to your body last year. And genetics are a big thing as well. You physically cannot get certain builds depending on your genetic. For example, me, I have a smaller build. I'm never going to have the broad shoulders or the huge chest. However, I have a good metabolism and it's fairly easy for me to get abs. So if I compare myself to someone who's all big and brolic like that, I'm not going to be happy. Or someone who has a really big, huge build looks at me and says, I want the abs and the shredded. Well, it's just not that obtainable for that person. So there's literally genetic factors that force you to only compare yourself to yourself.
Yeah, and I'll never be a stick figure. So again, comparing myself to these Insta baddies is counterproductive and is going to make me feel like shit for no reason, because I know I physically cannot get that way unless I have freaking surgery, which I'm not doing. So
yeah, or you've been unhealthy and you're malnourished. That's
or I freaking take Ozempic, which I'm also not doing. So
so the point is,
there's no reason.
You need to compare your body with your genetics to where it was to where it is, and make goals to make the best out of your own situation.
And when it comes to your own personal journey, forget about the external validation. Keep doing you. Set your own goals and strive towards that. You don't need to be posting about it if you don't want to.
Exactly. It's comparing, especially with your body, is something that really hurts mental health, puts people back. But if you compare your body from last year to this year and you're making progress, you're going to feel so much happier.
Yeah.
And this goes with everything, with cars, with items, with relationships, with jobs. If you're just looking at what your friends are doing, what other people are doing, and you're trying to emulate that, you'll never actually be happy. Because let's say, Gab, you have a friend who has a certain job and has a certain car, whatnot, and you say, wow, she looks awesome. I want to be just like her. You could spend 5-10 years trying to do that, and you could succeed. You could succeed in every box that you were trying to get. You can get there and still be unhappy. You can get it, and now you're still not happy because you just spent time chasing someone else's goals and not yours with what makes you happy.
Having someone else's life, it may seem luxurious, it may seem glamorous. If you're not happy, who the fuck cares?
Yeah, no, exactly. And an example of this in our lives was when I was in college, all I wanted to do was get a job in the city and move to Hoboken. That was all I wanted. Then when I graduated, I almost got there. I had a job in the city, and I was literally staring at a lease to sign in Hoboken. And then it didn't happen because I realized that this isn't what I want. I didn't like it up there. I didn't like the commute. I didn't like everything. And I realized the only reason I wanted all that or thought I wanted all that is because in the college I went to, that's what all my friends were doing. Everyone wanted that. But I had to sit there, and I almost achieved the goal. And I wasn't happy. I had to say, this isn't what I want. I'm more of a beach guy. I'm more of this. I'm more of that. I want to focus on real estate. And I ended up finding that my inward happiness and goals and changed the trajectory. So that's what I'm saying. It's impossible not to. We fell for it. You just have to figure out what you want and achieve it.
Yeah, and growing up in New Jersey, that's the thing you think you do. I used to work in New York. Going in hybridly, that made me miserable as well. Mm-hmm. Like you said, I'm a beach girl. I don't think I'm meant to do that. Leaning in towards real estate, need to be local for that. So it's just like you're mixing someone else's goals with your own goals. Yep. You become scatterbrained.
We succeeded in the goal we thought we had. It wasn't happy because we had someone else's dream of working in the city.
Like, I am happy I did it just to know that I didn't actually want to do that. But at the end of the day, that's why you try things, and that's why we encourage you to, try out that side hustle, try out that new business, try out different hobbies and whatnot, because you may like it, you may hate it.
Yep, but you have to do things that you want.
And to overcome comparison, I encourage you to express gratitude daily, because I guarantee that you are currently living out one of your previous manifestations.
Yeah, like the Nick from 5 years ago saw me today, he would be very happy. He's like, wow, you're doing great. But the me today, I am happy, but I'm now striving for more. I have new goals. And if you look back at yourself and say, would the you from 5 years ago be happy with you? And the answer is no. It probably means either one, you're not trying, or two, you're trying too hard on a life that you don't actually want.
You're always going to be striving for new goals. You're always going to have new goals in mind, and that's okay. But happiness is a feeling. You can't just wait on the whens. Oh, I'll be happy when I get this. Just remember that happiness is a feeling. You can feel that in your current state and still strive for more. Remove the how and whens as to when your goals are going to happen, and just stay hyper-focused on your own goals.
Yeah.
And with that being said, let's move on to real estate.
Yeah, and that is so important, especially with real estate, with buying houses, right? Because buying a home is different for everyone. Some people buy in their 20s, some 30s, 40s, 50s. It is so situational. Do not feel the need to buy a house just because some of your friends are doing it.
The new norm is now mid-30s to buy a house. That is statistically proven.
Yeah, the stat last year, the average first-time buyer was like 37 or 38, and the average home buyer was in their 50s.
Yeah, so. That's scary. And, you can't compare someone else buying a house at your age. You don't know if they received a gift. You don't know if they've been putting away most of their income to their savings and were able to buy a house that way.
Yeah, you never know a situation. They may be buying a house for a really cheap deal from a family member or getting help from their parents, and you don't see that part, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, so-and-so bought a house, I have to do it. But if you're not in the right financial situation, and that's where I come in to help realize if this is attainable or not, you may buy a house too early and then put yourself back financially because you were trying to match your friends.
Yeah, don't create pressure from seeing external people buying homes and whatnot. Sometimes renting is smart in some situations.
Yeah, and one situation I want to bring with that, let's say you're renting, but you have money for a down payment and you're starting a business. You may need to put that money into the business, and now you're stuck with a decision. Do I buy a house or do I put money into my business?
Yeah.
And the business might be the right answer at the time, but if you're comparing yourself to all your friends who are buying houses, you may make the wrong choice and your business fails because you bought the house too soon. It's so situational, and you need to do the right thing.
And let's just say you're moving a lot, or moving in with a partner that, you still kind of recently started dating. That might not be the right move to buy. So everyone's situation looks different. You cannot compare yourself.
Yeah, and when you bring up the rent, I'm going to say renting and buying, some people stay home with their parents longer, and there's no shame in that.
There's no shame. You can save longer.
let's say average rent's $2,400 a month, and you stay with your parents for 4 extra years, right? Whether it was college or after college. In those 4 years, you have now saved $115,000 that your friend who has their own place got rid of. So doesn't look like too much of a loser now, right?
Yeah.
You have 115 grand in the bank from staying home, and now you can buy the house. So
Yeah.
it's just such a different situation.
And we moved out earlier because just of our circumstances.
We had to.
Yeah, we had to. And some people don't have to. So that's fine. It's all fine. This is why you can't compare yourself.
Exactly. And another thing to note, especially with real estate, different locations make a difference. If you see someone online who has a mansion, they may be down south or in middle America, and that mansion may only be 300 to 400 grand.
Yeah.
Where in New Jersey, where we live, 300 to 400 grand gets you a tiny 900 square foot apartment.
Oh, yeah.
So you compare like, oh my God, so and so has this mansion. Well, you have the same priced house, you're just in a different location. Therefore, the comparison is completely irrelevant.
Even like from Monmouth County to Ocean County, like it's very different. You can get more for your buck in Ocean County, even though I love Monmouth County. I'm servicing both areas.
Yeah.
I see it every single day.
Yeah, so comparison is irrelevant and wrong because there is no comparison, right? Like you may say, oh, I could only afford this apartment, but my friend in Tennessee or in Texas could afford this. Well, guess what? You can afford that in that state. And that's why with real estate and with buying houses, location makes such a difference. You're right. Interstate or through the different countries, if you compare, you're just wrong.
And the location has to make you happy. That's the trade-off. Like, are you going to be happy with that location to have that house or vice versa?
Exactly. And I love that because you may be happier in an area where prices are higher and you may have a smaller home or a condo, but you're where you want to be and you're happy. Whereas if you got the bigger house for the same price out in the middle of nowhere, you would be bored and miserable.
Yeah.
The most important thing is making a move when you're ready and where you're happy and not comparing to someone else's house because it's just so different.
Be happy with your improvements thus far. Have you saved more than last year to buy a house? Are you finally able to move out of your parents' house? There's so many other things that you can look at and be happy with your current situation to catapult your personal goals.
Exactly. Maybe if 2 years ago you were roommating with friends and now you have your own condo, that's great. Maybe last year you had a little condo, now you have a starter home, great. Or I had a starter home, now I moved up to a bigger house, awesome. You only comparison you should do is to where you were, how you felt, and where you are and how you feel now.
Yeah. Define your real estate goals and your timeline, and don't let any external validation deter you away from that.
Exactly. Because, your friend who buys the home in their 20s, God forbid, but they may lose their job in their 30s and have to sell the house and move back home where you didn't buy your house in your 20s, you felt behind, then you bought one in your 30s, and now you have your own home and he's back home, right? Not that either situation's bad, that's just how life works. And if the guy who bought the home first is now 30 comparing himself to his friends, he's going to feel shit about his situation when he will get back on his feet. If your friend who didn't buy in his 20s, he may feel like shit and behind in his 20s when he buys later. There's no comparison. Life comes with ups and downs. It's a roller coaster. And the only way to be happy is if you look inward. If you're looking at all your friends and everyone else, you never know what's going to happen in the future. You never know what your timeline is. Just stay true to yourself, your process, and what you want.
Exactly. So, again, we want to reiterate, comparison is the thief of joy. Do not compare yourself. Stay hyper-focused on your goals, your journey, and work through it that way. Release the how and when your goals are going to happen.
Yes, keep working towards what you want, and you'll get there.
Stay consistent. Don't compare yourself, and you'll be good.
Yeah, so we hope you got some good info here today. Whether it's with your career, with your fitness, your lifestyle, buying a house, no comparing to others. Social media is fake, and it can affect your mental health. Focus on you, where you were, where you are, and what will make you happy tomorrow.
Yeah. It's always you versus you, and that's the biggest thing. Do not allow external circumstances to deter you from getting to your goals. That doesn't matter either. And don't be afraid to fail. If you need a refresher on that, we have an episode, Failing Upwards, episode 11. You might need a refresher on that after listening to this one.
That is true. So thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for joining us today. Like and subscribe, guys. We really appreciate your listening, and we'll see you next week.